What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the brand new Bollywood film on Netflix, and that is Guilty. I need you in the comments down below. Did you watch this Netflix original movie, at least in the United States, and were you looking forward to it? Let's get right into it. So in Guilty, a young woman from a small town accuses the college heartthrob of sexual assault. Now, the most recent Bollywood film that I watched on Netflix was a movie by the name of Drive, which was one of my least favorite films of last year, but according to literally everyone in my comment section, you felt the same way, so I'm glad I wasn't alone. And I really didn't know anything about this movie. I didn't see a trailer for it. I didn't even know what I was in for when I clicked on the title. And then I came to terms with the fact that this film is talking about sexual assault. We are dealing with the Me Too movement here, something from a bit of a different perspective taking place in India. Now, just from what I saw within the movie when they give us facts at the end of the film and how many people have dealt with rape and things of that nature, it is heartbreaking because I feel like it isn't as bad maybe here in America as it is just from what I saw from those statistics, right? Which was truly, it took my breath away. I could not believe it. You look at what this movie is dealing with, and I had a bit of hesitation. Should I put myself through this? Because it feels like I'm always reviewing TV shows and movies on Netflix, and if it even starts to deal with something like this, there are people in my comment section saying, well, too much of that, or too much of this, or politics. But since the movie's focus is what happens with this girl, this sexual assault, and the fact that we are going through this case, getting different perspectives on what happened, and you are just as clueless as some of the characters in the movie. You are just as clueless as the lawyer in the film trying to determine what actually happened to this girl. Is she making it up? Is she doing this to draw attention to herself? Did she bring this upon herself? Did it actually happen? And from that perspective, even though I was hesitant to review this just because I don't necessarily know how people are going to feel about it. Now, I've seen a couple of things on Twitter regarding politics within India, right? And being someone on the outside looking in, I didn't necessarily grasp onto that. I don't necessarily understand what that is all about. All that I know is what we are dealing with here, and I have to judge this movie as a movie from a technical perspective, from a screenwriting perspective, and let's start there. First off, I did actually get something from this movie. I actually thought it was well done. I didn't love it. I think there are many things that could have been handled a bit better. There were a few actors, especially some of the side characters, that came off as trying a tad bit too hard. I am unfamiliar with a lot of these performers, but I will say, Kiara, I hope I'm saying her name right, she was good. A lot of these actors were good, and the way that you approach feeling about some of these people, even though you're speculative at first, it's like, do I want to agree with this person? Do I want to be on their side, even though I don't know all of the truth? It is conflicting as you're watching it. It allows you, as an audience member, to raise questions of your own, and like I said earlier, you just don't know what to believe. You're on the side of those that are approaching it from an outside perspective, and you're going through the film and you think certain characters are trustworthy, but they end up not being trustworthy, and that is the sign, that's the tale of a good film. But when you look at the script and the fact that they were so on the nose about a few of these topics, and I said it at the beginning of this review, they said the words Me Too so many times, and they approach it from a perspective that maybe isn't as familiar as it should be to someone that is living through something like this. That's where I think it could have been pushed in a bit of a different direction, but you're also dealing with something like consent. And what does it mean to be a victim of a crime? Or what does it mean to be a victim of a crime? Meaning throughout the movie, there are certain characters and you're looking at them as they are the person that is affected from the person who is lying about this situation, or are they? And I'm trying my best not to spoil certain plot points, and I don't want to get into what happens at the actual end. All I will say is some things were a bit too on the nose. I mentioned subtlety before. They don't approach this film with much subtlety, and I don't mean in your face in a political kind of way. I just mean from a dialogue perspective, they could have scaled back with how almost a Disney Channel feel the third act was. You had people rallying and people chanting things, and some of the sound design was just a tad bit off, and I love the idea of the third act, don't get me wrong, and that final moment I actually thought was genuinely powerful. So there were some moments like that all throughout the film. And when you come to terms with what the movie is actually doing and you realize what actually happened, because, throughout the movie you're wondering what happened, you do get your answers. It doesn't leave you on edge. It doesn't leave you wondering at the end of the day, were they telling the truth or not? You get your answers. And when you get your answers, you're sitting back going, I can't believe I was either on one side of the fence or the other and believed what I believe. And it shows how sometimes onlookers can be blind to the toxicity and people just go with it, even though they're lying to the faces of those who need to know the truth and the faces of those who are living in that lie. And that's a really powerful thing to look at. And sometimes we ourselves are guilty of overlooking the obvious or just lying about what we saw or what we did not see. And learning those lessons and progressing through this movie is really important. And once again, it is a political topic. It is something that if you're going to watch this, you need to know that it does take a certain side, but from what this film is showcasing, it's completely understandable why it took that side, and it really does showcase certain points of humanity that work very well in this movie. So from an execution standpoint, I think it could have been better. Like I said, some of the dialogue is on the nose, the third act gets a tad bit cheesy, and some of the lines are a bit obnoxious, meaning they just needed to approach it with a bit more subtlety, but the idea is there, the concept is there. I thought some of the acting was really good. There are great emotional moments and certain characters that you really resonate with. So at the end of the day, I actually like this movie. I think a lot of people are going to get something out of it, especially if you've lived through something like this, or you've been there yourself, or you have been the victim of something like this. So I definitely think it raises a lot of great questions. It deals with justice and humanity. If you guys enjoy these kinds of reviews, whether they're Bollywood-centric or Netflix reviews, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Let me know, and I will definitely do more. But I'm going with a solid 62% for Guilty. I do wish a few things would have been a tad bit better, but got its message across. It worked well for me, and there were some really good elements to it. You guys are truly the best. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you very soon.